What is up, everybody? Hope you guys are doing well today. I want to give a huge shout out to all the people who are watching the live stream right now and all the people who are watching the live stream on replay. Really do appreciate you guys for tuning in. So we're going to go ahead and get started with today's topic, which is the DEI Dilemma, or the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Dilemma. It is Black History Month, and I kind of wanted to do something that was affecting Black people, but then also can be related to corporate, or it can be related to tech. So it touches a lot of different paradigms that may affect a lot of different people. And you may see this word being thrown around, but what I'm going to do is discuss what it is, like define it, and we're going to be watching some videos and going through some articles as well. I'm going to drop the link later on. What actually spun this discussion is because I always want to start my live streams talking about a particular issue that's going on, and then later on come up with a solution. So with coming up with solutions to a lot of our issues, I think that leads to us creating a lot of value. All right. So with that, I was speaking with Professor Black Ops on various occasions. We were discussing how he really enjoyed the topic of talking about age discrimination and how that affects people who are older and who are experienced in the industry, and then also people who are younger and just now getting out of college or just getting into the industry as well, talking about the tech industry. And Professor Black Ops was saying that, hey, he, after being in his 50s, he's seeing that, some sort of age discrimination, or people who are getting older are not getting the same type of opportunities as they were when they were younger. And me coming in on the other end, when we first started talking, when I first started doing YouTube, I was fresh out of college and just starting my career at the time. And I was telling him, like, hey, I am feeling as though I am not receiving a lot of the opportunities that I would like to. Like, I don't see the opportunities that these people are saying on social media. They're saying that, hey, you can get $100,000 fresh out of college, your first job. And I'm sure that's true for certain people. But when I looked at myself, I didn't really see that. When I first started, I made $65,000 a year. And that's just one form of a discrimination that you may see. And speaking of Professor Black Ops, I see him in the chat. Shout out to Professor Black Ops. Hopefully you're able to hit the link later on when I drop it. I'm going to be dropping it in a little while. But you have won the number one spot. Coming for that number one spot. All right, man. All right. Thank you so much, Professor Black Ops, for tuning in. An industry professional of over 20 years being in the industry. And then also salute to the Compliment King. Thank you so much for tuning in. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you guys a quick video, or like a clip. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but it is from Stephanie from Wine and Chill. Really enjoy her channel. She is going to help us with understanding diversity, equity, and inclusion, and why it's a big thing, but also an issue as well. Particularly talking about corporate, but we can also relate this to many other things such as tech as well. So let me share my screen for you guys. Oh, I'm sorry. So Professor Black Ops, he's 20 years wasn't enough. It says 30 plus years in information tech, 15 plus years in security. So I had to put some respect on his name. So believe he's saying 30 years in total, and then 15 years plus, specifically working in cybersecurity. All right, so let's share my screen. There we go. And you guys should be able to see me now. Okay. So this is from Wine and Chill, from Stephanie from Wine and Chill. Let us start off on this part of the video. So, and also this video is talking about Claudine Gay, who actually was over diversity, equity, and inclusion. And she ended up having to resign from her position. We're going to be going through that in 1 second. Let me see. And also, thank you so much for tuning in. I can't share my share. There it goes. There goes a comment. Thank you, Sasha, for tuning in. Okay, let's go ahead and get into the video. Thank you, and as well for saying that this is a great topic.
First, starting with words matter and the co-opting of language. I have a serious question, which is I don't think most people, particularly most conservatives, even know what the word equity means. We have taken diversity, equity, and inclusion, which I have been a big critic of DE&I initiatives, having worked on them tirelessly for so many years because the proper funding has never been given to DE&I initiatives in the corporate space. Never, not once, very rarely. And I'm of the mindset that diversity, equity, inclusion as intended can't actually work without anti-racism work. What we have now seen is the words DE&I put together being co-opted by, I would say, right wing and people who, just throw their money whenever they feel like it when they don't get their way. Which, hold on, this camera, somebody pointed that out. It doesn't focus all the time. And it was doing such a great job. I don't know why. So if it's out of focus, hopefully it's back in focus now. And why those specific words, diversity, equity, inclusion, now have been co-opted from, the bare veneer of actual helpfulness to now what you are seeing is people attack the idea of any type of racial equity. Equity is helping a person or a group, giving them the tools needed so they are on an equal playing field with somebody else. So for example, as somebody who is, not too tall, even though in my mind I'm 6'7", I'm 5'2.5". I'm a bit short. If we were at a baseball game and there is a cement and we don't have the money to go into the baseball game because, inflation is too high, but we want to watch the game, and there is a wall, and that wall happens to be 6 feet high, and I'm sitting next to somebody who's 6'2", they can see the game. I can't see the game. I'm 5'2". Equity would be giving me a large enough block, so something that is 8.5 inches to stand on, to where now I can see the baseball game as well. The 6'2" person has lost nothing. They are seeing above the wall. Equity hurts nobody. Equity is a win-win for everybody. If you and I went to go see the baseball game illegally at that point, because we're looking over the cement block, the whole purpose is for us to see it together. Aren't you going to be annoyed having to constantly explain to me what's going on in the game? It would behoove you to also find the 8.5-inch block for me to stand on. That is what equity is. Nobody loses. The reason why DEI now is being attacked, and specifically the equity portion of DEI, affirmative action was a form, if used correctly, which affirmative action has not been applied correctly in decades, which affirmative action initially was to enable African American people to get admission into institutions of higher education. In schools, affirmative action was applied to government contracts. Affirmative action seeped into areas of business as well. For many years, affirmative action was co-opted. Largely, the largest beneficiaries of affirmative action for many decades have been white women. The initial beneficiaries of affirmative action and the equity that was owed to African American people has been denied for many, many, many years. What you are seeing now is people saying, DEI is awful. DEI is saying white people are bad. That's not what DEI was ever saying, child. DEI was simply saying, hey, we need more numbers of different types of people. It cannot just be white people in the room all the time. The diversity part. Equity, hello, all the short people would like a standing block to stand on. Nobody's losing from anything from that. And the inclusion, now that you have let these Negroes into this space And now that they are a black face in a white space, you do have to treat them with a level of dignity and kindness. The inclusion part is not just forcing your black employees every Black History Month, as corporate Erin had on her TikTok, to volunteer to do free labor and to smile in the corporate photo. That is not inclusion. That is not what they're attacking. They're attacking the idea that any type of ode equity to Black people is occurring. That is what is currently is being attacked, as well as the weaponization and the co-opting of the word woke. That, to be honest, is one of my personal sadnesses as somebody who for years as a kid was like, oh, when I get enough education and I'm smart enough, I too can be a woke Black woman. And now they have taken the word, made it into this joke of the day, and they don't even know how to explain the word. How are you going to teach a word, but you can't even give it your new definition that you don't even know what it is? It's mumbo jumbo. It's foolery now. It's sad. It's very, very sad. So with that, I think that foundation of what all these words actually mean before they were convoluted, and before we were all bamboozled, is helpful.
Okay, so that was Stephanie's definition of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the reason why there's an issue right now that's going on. I have a few articles to further talk about this as well. Let's see. This is from CNN here, where they are discussing the DEI efforts are under siege. Here's what experts say is at stake. So not only is Stephanie saying this, but it's also CNN, who's one of the very large major platform. This was back in January when they came up with this article. And I can say for certain that I have seen a lot of DEI positions being slashed within corporate as well. So you can see that they're kind of coming down on the on diversity, equity, and inclusion, because it's essentially saying that there is an issue going on in the corporate environment, but do they feel like there's a return on investment for solving that issue or helping to solve that issue? And that's what we're seeing, a lot of companies not finding it to be a return on investment. Okay, so I'm going to go to this part of the article where it says major companies created new DEI positions or expanded teams dedicated to DEI, and the phrase became a buzzword across the business landscape. Many corporate leaders pledged to hire more people of color, removed branding perceived to be racist, and invested in historically Black colleges, so HBCUs. At the time, the efforts were largely met with public support amid a so-called racial reckoning that laid bare a slew of systemic inequities in American society, including the workplace. But nearly 4 years later, the very public ousting of Harvard's first Black woman president earlier this week, so this was back in January 11th when it came out. So it has led to a new firestorm of debate about DEI efforts in corporate America and beyond. And Claudine Gay was first female Black president over Harvard. So let us. I'm just going to play like a little bit of this, and let's see.
I think that lifting language verbatim, changing one or two, if it's one sentence of technical description, you can say, okay, that's not such a big deal. But many, many of these examples were literally just whole paragraphs of serious research lifted with no quotation marks.
Now, right here, they're over here discussing the Claudine Gay and accusing her of plagiarism.
This is not small stuff.
So again, I disagree here.
Students get expelled for this.
No, so I completely disagree here. I mean, look, when Claudine Gay went through the process, right, people are here saying that she was a diversity hire. I mean, she went to Phillips Exeter, she went to Princeton, then she went to Stanford. She got her PhD at Harvard, where she got top marks in her dissertation for political science. She had the #1 dissertation in political science.
And so there was plagiarism in that dissertation.
So now the argument that you're making is that everyone who reviewed her paper, which is not just one professor, multiple professors at Harvard reviewed her paper and gave her the best academic remarks. Neither of us are PhDs. We're not people who are in academic writing. And again, I'm saying if your point is there's 50 allegations, why isn't there a full process? Why don't you agree to have a 7-month process, just like the President Stanford did?
Well, sure.
Why should it be a different case for her?
7-month process where they can look at all the different ways in which she plagiarized things. But the fact that she got good marks on her dissertation, this is totally irrelevant. Okay?
No, but I think
this is a change of subject, right? This is a pattern of serious fraud that would destroy the career of
let there
any
be,
journalist,
let there be
any
an
author.
investigation. I mean, the reality is the right-wing mob that is really behind this has claimed this as a victory against DEI.
All right, so as you can see, they're just calling in her credentials and her legitimacy as a president. All right, saying that, hey, you know, they wanted to let her go, and also are saying that she was plagiarizing and stealing things from different sources without giving proper credit. All right, so that's where all this kind of comes from as well. This big push, this big dilemma that's going on right now. We're going to move on to our next. Let's see. I think it's this one. All right. So let's move on to our next article where we're getting this from ABC News. This is another major news platform as well, discussing how corporate America is slashing DEI workers amid backlash to diversity programs.
He signed a bill that defunds diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in state colleges and universities as he moves closer to running for the White House. Chief White House Washington correspondent John Carl has the latest. Good morning, John.
Good morning, George. In a clear sign that DeSantis is close to announcing that he is running for president, his team has told top donors and supporters to plan to be in Florida the middle of the next week, with sources close to DeSantis saying a presidential announcement is likely before Memorial Day. This, as DeSantis is using the power of his governorship to push hot-button issues appealing to his party's conservative base.
Surrounded by supporters, Ron DeSantis claimed a victory in the culture war, signing into law a bill that passed without a single Democratic vote to block Florida's public colleges from using government funding on programs supporting diversity, equity, and inclusion, sometimes referred to as DEI.
DEI is better viewed as standing for discrimination, exclusion, and indoctrination, and that has no place in our public institutions.
Critics of the new law say DEI programs are essential to making campuses inclusive and accuse DeSantis of imposing his ideology on higher education.
What they're doing is trying to suppress how the students thinking and trying to tell professors and administrators how and what they should teach and muzzling them on what they can and they cannot say.
DeSantis signed the bill at New College of Florida, a public university whose board DeSantis fired in order to install conservative leadership, prompting student protests, including outside his event on Monday.
I saw some of the protesters out there. I was a little disappointed. I was hoping for more, but you know.
It's only the latest in a series of controversial moves by the Florida governor to appeal to potential Republican primary voters. He recently signed into law a ban on abortion after 6.
All right, so that is what the Florida governor, Ron DeSantis, had to say about diversity, equity, and inclusion. He is not in favor of it, even going out his way to get rid of whole teams dedicated to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Okay. Let's see. And this is, I think, is our last article on this. I have also dropped the link as well. But this is a study on bias, and it reveals several types of discrimination. This is from SHRM. I think it stands for Strategic Human Resources Management. I think that's what this company is titled, the meaning of this company or this acronym. So let's go ahead and kind of go through a few of these bullet points that the strategic human resource management company is discussing. So let's see. This is saying from intolerant jokes to disparaging comments to exclusion from meetings, workplace bias takes different forms according to a study released March 21st, and this came out back in 2017. So this has been an ongoing thing as well. So it says Judith Honesty, CEO of Honesty Consulting in Chicago, and David Maxfield, Vice President of Research at Vital Smarts, a leadership training company in Salt Lake City, conducted the study of 500 people who said they had been discriminated against in the workplace. Maxfield also is the co-author of Influencer, and it pretty much goes through her details. Let's move on to the next part. So it says, each person they spoke with had experienced incidents at work that made him or her feel unwelcome, excluded, discounted, or disadvantaged. All right, I do have Professor Black Ops in the back. I'm gonna let him up right quick, and then I will let you guys. I'll continue on with the article. Hey PBO, let me continue on with this article right quick. Can you hear me?
I can hold tight.
All right, give me 1 second. I'm going to share my screen for you as well. Okay, so thank you so much, SED. SED says it stands for Society for Human Resource Management. Okay. Thank you for that, SED. And good evening to you as well. Okay, so it says each person they spoke with had experienced incidents at work that made him or her feel unwelcome, excluded, discounted, or disadvantaged because of his or her race, age, gender, national origin, religion, physical or mental disability, medical condition, pregnancy, marital status, or sexual orientation, according to Honesty and Maxfield. Based on the stories they heard, they identified several ways in which people discriminate against others, whether the discrimination was subtle or overt. Those who experienced it heard these messages. It says, don't be yourself. You're not considered credible. And as you saw in the previous video with Claudine Gay, they were essentially saying that she was plagiarizing, making sure that you do not see her as a credible person, ruining her reputation as well, which reputation is one thing that is worth more than money, right? So somebody said, just kidding, and then they further on say a manager or a coworker makes biased comments to a colleague and tries to pass them off as a joke. Anything goes after hours. Managers or coworkers make racist, sexist, or intolerant comments or jokes about others, such as customers or people in the news. They think this is all right because they are talking about someone in their workplace. You're unwelcome. Gotcha. A manager or coworker seeks to tear down a colleague or believes those who disparage the coworker, even when the disparagers lack credibility. The manager may be unduly harsh with the worker but easy on others, or the manager may find fault to the extent of distorting the truth. An unconscious bias. Women older employees and minorities are told they lack executive presence, don't fit the culture, or are too aggressive. Although the performance might be viewed as exemplary in a white man or younger employee. Okay, so that is those are the points I wanted to hit on this article. I do want to play a little clip as well. I'm gonna let PBO go up while I look for the clip. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull you over, PBO. Hold on, let me do it like this. I'm gonna share my screen with you. I'm gonna share my video with you as well, PBO. That way you can see. And then I'm gonna pull this over. Okay. So, PBO, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right, man. Just was studying a little bit and kind of wrapping it up. Then I saw your video pop up, so I was like, let me jump on real quick. You should have got Anton Daniels is against DEI, and the Black Brain Trust is for it. So it's kind of interesting how the manosphere is kind of on all over the sides, which is normal, right? Different perspectives. So.
Yeah, I can agree with you on that. I think that, I would say that I'm for DEI as far as I think it's important that we don't discriminate against people and we have an equal opportunity employment because, if we didn't have it, we wouldn't be in these positions that we're in now. We wouldn't have been able to go to college and be able to get into this position. We already are. Like I pulled up there was a article, not an article, but a graph that I shared on my community tab a little while ago, and it discussed the income per the race, and we were last. So I'm sorry, not last, but we were in the article. Let me show it.
Okay. I just saw when I thought we had Latins beat by a couple dollars. I saw.
I'm talking about this is the median.
Okay.
So let me share this right quick. Share my screen.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, there we go. So as you can see, so it says the median household income in the United States by ethnic group. That's what I meant. So not race, but ethnic group. For ethnic group, we are $35,000, and this was back in 2013 to 2015. Yeah. So the numbers may have changed.
A little surge, but go ahead. You in the ballpark. I mean, I think we're a little above them, but now we if we're at the bottom, we almost at the bottom. So
right. I mean, at a certain point, it kind of doesn't really matter if we like the very last place, or if we like second from last. It's not like we're gonna overtake, all these other people. I don't think that much has changed in that many years. Was it 9 years, something like that?
Yeah.
So we have Indian Americans by ethnic group make the most for the median household income in the United States.
So I guess my question is the household considered married people in the household or just people in the household?
I'm sure it considers single people as well. I think it takes in, and let me see if it says the source, the U.S. Census Bureau. So if you included your income into the U.S. Census, then I believe that you'd be considered in this, as a household.
So yeah, we're gonna be at the bottom because our divorce rate's so high. So I think per household, that's gonna. Well, I think a lot of people are two income, and I think a lot of times we're one.
And then we have the correlation as well that they put in here is the percentage of population with a bachelor's degree. So we have down here the percentages which is 70% of Indian Americans by ethnic group do get bachelor's degrees. And I see it all the time. I mean, when you look at the people who are, getting a lot of the tech jobs, the majority of people I may interact with are either white or Indian.
100%.
So or another Asian ethnicity. So as you can see, like the Indian, Korean, Chinese, Filipino, then Japanese. So you have all of those, all Asian people or ethnic groups are getting their bachelor's degrees and then also out earning the average American.
Well, real quick, I guess the new question is it doesn't seem like the return on investment for education is what it used to be. So you think this is going to flip once you start adding in the debt from getting those degrees?
Are you saying that the median income will change? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, it's changing now. People coming out with $100,000 in debt and only making $20 an hour. Yeah. I mean, you see that a lot.
What kind of degree would you get that puts you in like 100,000? It's like a private school or something like that.
You're a Big Ten. How much was Georgia State? But you stayed at home. If you stayed on campus, it probably would have been what, 60 or 70 maybe?
I don't know, because I got out clean. I only had like 4,000.
Yeah, but most people don't get out clean, man. I knew guys was taking out loans and buying cars though, man. So we wasn't making the best financial decisions on top of that. Right. So it'd be interesting because, but two is I think those ethnicities are staying in STEM too. So I think that's why they're at the higher end of this chart, right? Because most of those guys are doctors, math, science, computer science, biotech, right? So I think one reason their household income is so high, they're definitely strong into the STEM. And I think a lot of times us and white America, we're in sociology and other stuff that I don't think could pay as well. So,
all right, communications and stuff like that. So, there's a few things about it. When we talk about tech, and especially when you see that these college degrees are, and I'll try and pull up the article as well. But when you see that these college degrees are no longer being used for hiring in certain roles, not for every role, but for certain roles at certain companies, I think what it is they're trying to make it so they don't have to pay as much. For the same type of work, and in some cases more work, because they're laying off so many people and then they're getting rid of the degree requirements. It's easier for companies to be able to get high quality talent for less. Yeah. So and one thing in our community that I don't like, well, I can't say only in our community because I see it like people like Grant Cardone, so it affects other communities as well. But when they talk down on working 9-to-5s and getting degrees,
let's be super specific though. In the white community, you don't see that very often. You see people talking in the black community like 9-to-5 guys are lame. You want to work for yourself. If you're not a boss, basically you're a punk. So I think that really gets elevated in our community. But go ahead, Peter.
You know what? When you say that, I actually went to an event last night, and it was a whole panel of CEOs, and I'll probably try and pull up the clip of it. I think I had the clip. But the CEOs, what they were talking about was working a 9-to-5 job and then leaving from corporate America into running their own business. And they explain how difficult it was for them to do, like losing their apartments and, being homeless or whatever it is. And then they say it as if it was better for them to do it that way than it would be to work a job. So,
but to me, that's a little disingenuous because they told you how hard it was. So let's be real. Those guys are outliers, man. Most people trying to do, especially I try to do 2 consulting companies, man. I lost about 150 grand. So I mean I think that's really a hard lift. And I think the average person can't do it.
Right.
So I get beat up when I say that a lot, but those guys are the top outliers. And I think there should be a certain class that we help to start businesses so we can have our own consulting companies and do that. But I don't think the masses are set up to do it because a lot of other communities, they get backing. Like Mark Zuckerberg, his father gave 300,000. Bill Gates' daddy was a patent attorney, right? So when they started companies, there was really no risk for them to start those companies. Right? Them dudes talking about ending up homeless. Like, dude.
Yeah, I have the clip here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and play it.
It's very nerve-wracking.
Can you see my screen?
I can.
Okay, I mean, can you hear the video?
I can. Crystal clear. Yep, I heard it.
All right, so this is from last night. This is called the From Vision to Vanguard event that happened for Black History Month. And I wanted to kind of play it to see. It's only like a minute long. But she's right here, she's talking about leaving her 9-to-5 job to work to get her business.
It's very nerve-wracking, but I think that once I kind of had a sense of utilizing my gifts as a way to kind of create a lifestyle for myself, or create a career for myself, for some reason, there are times I'm just like, maybe I should just go back to a 9-to-5. And then in that moment of thinking about it, I kind of cringe a little bit. I get nauseous. Like, I'm just like, I can't see myself there. So it's like, you kind of have to envision yourself. Can you see yourself doing this? There's things that you may need to do, because financially, in regards to how your lifestyle is. But I just couldn't see myself going back to a 9-to-5. And so at that point, I called it, I was talking to myself a lot, not like a crazy person, but I was talking to myself, but I was just like, funny, you're gonna have to intern for yourself. So a lot of things that I was doing, because I can't automatically start charging people, they don't know what I do. So a lot of times I kind of had to bet on myself and say, you know what, I heard that you have this going on, let me do it for you, let me do this for you, kind of, although
she started rambling at the end a little bit to me. But yeah, so that was from that event. And my thing is, like, I understand that, the CEOs and, they're accomplished, but just like how you said, PPO, they are outliers. Like, the majority of people, if you were to not get a college degree and just be like a person who's just working, like, it's not like you can just hard work your way into making $100,000. You have to also be hard work, but it also comes with positioning and luck. You have to position yourself to be able to have the opportunities. So I like to go to those types of events around people because not only are there professionals, but you do have other CEOs there as well. What do you think about that, PBO?
The other thing too is if you look at the BLS, Bureau of Labor Statistics, when they looked at it, 98% of Black businesses was sole proprietorship, right? They didn't have any employees. They didn't have any payroll, right? So to me, you're hustling to replace what a 9-to-5 job is. And most of those people, even in their business, if you pull their receipts, they weren't even making 100. And most of those businesses didn't have medical 401k, right? Now, I'm not downgrading it, but I think we need to make the comparison fair, right? Because when everybody says I'm a CEO, okay, how many employees you got? What's your revenue? Right now, theoretically, you could grow it, and I think we do need more entrepreneurship. But I think when you go to those type of things, it's always out of balance, right? They only talk about being an entrepreneur. They only talk about, starting your own business. Where if you get in FANG, I mean, guys in FANG, they make $500,000, $300,000 or $400,000. But once again, we both know those are outliers too. But so you can make a good enough salary to make as much as if you own a company, right? So I think just the balance of that. To me, once again, I think our communities outsource. If you're not a boss, then you pretty much a failure. Right. That's how I took it. The pendulum done swing so far left that if you don't start your own company, you just a failure, man. You a sucker to the system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in addition to that, because we also have, what is it? We also have this article right here. So this article says more U.S. companies no longer requiring job seekers to have a college degree. I watched a video earlier today from American Income, and they had a guy on there, his Asian guy. He said he was making $500,000 a year, and he went to Georgia Tech. I would say one of the best schools in Georgia is Georgia Tech, is UGA, and Georgia State. Those are the best schools to me, right? Some people may disagree because they go to the AUC or something like that. They may say Morehouse or Spelman or something like that.
Right, HBCU.
Or Clark Atlanta.
Yeah.
So, it depends on your own opinion, but those are my top three. So let's just kind of go through this a little bit because there's another point I wanted to make as well after this. So it's talking about how employers across a range of industries are dropping a job requirement once considered a ticket to a higher paying job and financial security, a college degree. Today, tight labor market has led more companies instead to take a more skill-based approach to hiring, as evidenced on job search sites like Indeed and ZipRecruiter. Part of it is employers realizing they may be able to do a better job finding the right talent by looking for the skills or competencies someone needs to do the job and not letting a degree get in the way of that. So I can agree that looking at skills and competencies are good for finding a job. Or finding a talent, but I think that the degree helps filter a lot of people out because there are plenty of people who can put something on their resume. You can just copy whatever the buzzwords are and then put it in there. The algorithm puts you out. You don't care about a degree. You go and interview anybody, and there may be hundreds of people who are applying for one particular role, and if they want to make things easier for a better turnaround for the recruiter, they will take into account the degree. PBO, what I think they're doing is they are saying this and getting more people applying for jobs so that way they can then market to them their products and or the opportunity for a job later down the line. So when I say this, it goes back to a point that was made in a previous live stream talking about qualifying a candidate or qualifying a customer. So PBO, what did you think about this part before I move on to the next point?
Yeah, I thought you brought up a good point for that. Like you said, marketing. I think a lot of times I read too is companies like to look like they're viable, so they'll put fake job openings to make sure their company still looks hot, which I think is weird. And the other part of that, like you said, but when you go to the higher skill jobs, the higher technical jobs, they still use degrees because they're getting 200 and 300 applicants, so they got to cut it down some way. And I promise you, a lot of that is by degrees.
Mm-hmm.
Degrees and or certs. Go ahead.
Degrees, certs, and references as well.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Because just like how I said, we have these people who are getting the degrees. We saw who was getting the degrees. It says 70% Indian Americans are getting these bachelor's degrees per household. So
real quick. But some of those, especially in India, they have a lot of degree mills. So we can talk about the relevancy of the degrees later, but they're getting them. But how they're getting them is a different conversation. But go ahead. I just want to throw that.
Yeah, right. Like you're kind of referencing the degree mills, kind of similar to the debate that Pocket Watcher with JT had with Huey Abraham about the fake PhDs that he was giving out.
Yep, 100%. Yep, I seen a part of that. So yeah, that part. So they're getting degrees. We can talk about if they're valid or not, if they're overrated or not. But obviously, they're getting degrees and the jobs because they're at the top of the food chain and for the medium household income. So
yep, they're getting the degrees, the jobs, and the leadership positions, so that way they can get more people who look like them in these positions as well. So starting them off so that way they can then move on. So the new generation can move on into leadership. And then we don't have the same type of representation in leadership. You know, we have so many people talking about how, you know, oh, degrees are worthless now. But then you see all these other people, they go into school studying math and science. You know, oh, another great example. So another lady last night I met, and she was extremely intelligent. Lady, she's from the Caribbean. Her name's Dora, and she runs the Whitley Foundation. Let me see if I can find it right quick. Dora Whitley. So the Whitley Agency, that's what it's called. So this is her right here. And this is the event that we went to. So she, extremely intelligent woman, but then she was explaining how, like, she's a teacher. She knows like several different languages. And then it was also saying how difficult it was going from another country and moving here. But her parents were teaching her that, hey, you have to learn this in order to be successful. And then that's what she did. Got a bachelor's degree, started the Whitley agency with her husband. And then years later, they're extremely successful. So, you know, but we don't really have that in the African-American culture. We kind of more so focus in on other things that may not be able to help us get into these positions. But not only are we not pushing ourselves to get into these positions of leadership, but then also you see them actively saying, hey, we're going to try and get rid of a lot of the things that helped you get into these positions as well, such as getting degrees and DEI. PBO, I know that we talked about this before, and I brought you up in the beginning talking about age discrimination as well. Do you want to kind of talk about that as well while I moved on to the next part?
Yeah, I can discuss that a little bit. And so I'll break it in two parts. Part of age discrimination could be, you know, discrimination too, but as you get older, you expect to make more money. So if you're commanding more money, you got to have more skills, right? So I think you need to make sure your skills you have is going to command more money. And two, though, is as you get older, and it's a lot of it's true. I'm not going to drink Mountain Dew and work 20 hours like I used to do in my 20s. Like, I'm going to be up front, right? So how is that? Two, then two, when I was applying for new jobs, when I got laid off my consulting job, I noticed when I took my dates off of my degrees and I took 10 years off, so I only had 17, the rate of my callbacks went up exponentially. Now, I don't know if that's a cause and effect. Maybe it was at different times of year. I consider it was because of my age. Right? Then two is, like you said, is if you're trying to get somebody cheaper, no disrespect to B2B, you might get 1.5 B2Bs to compare to what I charge for work, right? So you can almost get two people compared to one, right? So you got to understand that two, going in, what is my value? What is my leadership? What is my skill set? And two is, at my age, they expect you to lead a team or be a supervisor too, right? As part of that. So two is some of it's discrimination, some of it's how much you charge, and two is it's your skill set. Because a lot of times, and I was joking because I was talking to a boot camp, and I didn't realize in 1984 was my first programming classes. My language was COBOL, PL1, Fortran, and RPG. Those languages don't even exist anymore. People still don't look up. Those languages don't exist anymore, right? So you got to make sure as an older person, you're still relevant, you're still getting your certs, you're still keeping your skill set up, right? long story short, the cloud is now, I got a bunch of AWS certs because I'm trying to, my last 10 years is going to be me in the cloud, right? So you got to make sure you keep your skills up with your age, right? Because they can get somebody, like anything, you can get somebody younger, cuter, and faster in life and dating and in work, right? It all stays the same. So,
right. I'm gonna share my screen again, PBO, because I made a live stream like last week, and I was talking with lead attorney about this, and we were discussing discrimination. He was saying, so I'm thinking he's just saying this, on the live stream, but I don't know if he exactly meant it per se. And of course, I'm going to kind of like make a clip of it as well, so that we, he has some more context. But he said that discrimination can be a good thing in certain aspects. For me, I don't think discrimination is a good thing. I think that maybe qualifying your candidates or your customers is what he's more so referring to.
Yeah.
Because those two things are completely different. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, because we were discussing business, and in business, it serves you no benefit to discriminate against people or discriminate against your the people who are actually giving you your revenue or your profit. So discrimination is it starts off by just saying the unjust or prejudicial treatment of different categories of people, especially on the grounds of ethnicity, age, sex, or disability, and it's the recognition and understanding of the difference between one thing and another. Okay, discrimination between right and wrong. All right.
But was lead attorney talking about discernment versus discrimination? You think that's where he was kind of melding those two words together?
I think because I told him, I tried to correct him on it and say qualifying your customer, right? Which is a little bit closer to, like, what he described was trying to make sure that somebody will gain value from his live streaming course, as opposed to somebody who may not be able to finish the course or may not find value in it. That to me is qualifying your candidate. He said, so this is what he said. He said, I almost want to say I don't want Christian people to join my mastermind. Yeah. But I don't know. I don't think he was serious about that per se.
I think he was serious. I thought he was serious. I mean, he's much better than me. And two is, I think, like you said, and a good friend of mine always say, words matter, because I'm always messing up words and meaning. So to me, when Louis Vuitton discriminated against Black people, it was by design, because they want to make sure white elite people were the only ones buying their garments. So they did that on purpose, and for them, that was a moneymaker. So let's be clear: you can discriminate and still make money, right? Yeah. They right. So, and two is Timberlands was pushing back, right, on Black guys wearing Timberlands because they wanted to be a work boot, and now they thought Black people was making it a little too hood. So you can discriminate and make money. So I just want to throw that out there. Go ahead, BP. So
okay, and they also had the same thing that they were talking about with Tommy Hilfiger.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah, but I mean, Kevin Samuel said it wasn't true. I don't know exactly which one was true, if he was actually discriminating against Black people or not, and if he actually said he only wants white teenagers to be wearing his clothes, or that's who it was made for. I don't know the legitimacy of it, but that was what the rumor was going around about Tommy Hilfiger. And then I looked it up as well. This is talking about in qualifying your candidate, talking about the hiring practices, which is understanding the candidate's current employment situation, including their availability to interview and beginning work. So that's qualifying a candidate for hire, which is also important to see if they're actually going to be able to go through the hiring process. And then this is talking about from a sales or business perspective, which is the what is qualifying your customer. The sales qualifying process is a method for determining whether a prospect is a good fit for the products or services you sell. So all of that, neither one of those, qualifying your candidate or qualifying your customer, had to deal with a person's race, age, gender. None of those things came up. Their disability,
But
none of those things came up. But this is good.
Real quick, but a lot of times too is HR and the hiring managers has built-in biases. Like for a while, Silicon Valley was looking for Mark Zuckerberg, a white dude who dropped out of an Ivy League school, right? So when I got in kind of senior, I wouldn't say leadership advisement, those guys would just hire guys that look like them. Until I start pushing back, right? Because they remind him of his uncle, they remind him of his nephew, they remind him of his niece. And like you said, we in no senior position, especially of hiring. So they get this pattern matching going on. So I think they're doing it behind the scenes, and half of them don't even know they have that built-in bias.
Mm-hmm. Right, and PBO, just like how you said, if it didn't exist, even you wouldn't be able to push back on it.
Right.
Right. So yeah, that's what I wanted to kind of discuss with everybody, because I'm like, this is what we should be like. This I don't think is a bad thing. Qualifying somebody based off of something unrelated to something that they can't change. Like you can't change, being born black, or you can't change, like the rate, the age that you are, or the, your gender or anything like that. You have to, that's how you were born. So when you see somebody who says like, hey, discrimination could be a good thing, I think that mentality needs to be changed. That's an issue, especially when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and not wanting people who are not like you to also have opportunities as well. As a perfect example, so we saw Claudine Gay as the president over what was it, Harvard, and she was like the first black woman as the president, and she got kicked out. And it's like, okay, well, now that was like the only one. Now your numbers are okay. The majority of people in this position are, white men, and you can't really say that you have any other candidates like this. There can be other people who are qualified to do it, right, based off of credentials. Like there's a lot of people who have like PhDs, a lot of black people who have PhDs. I believe BBO, don't you have aren't you a PhD candidate or a PhD?
I have an MBA, man.
You have an MBA.
Yeah, look, I you can look it up. The PhD by itself is small. You talking about black people, man? Come on.
Let me see, because I want to make sure.
It's tiny.
Black people with PhDs.
It's tiny.
I mean, we got Boyce Watkins.
Yeah, it's small, man.
All right, so we got a number of doctoral degrees earned in the United States.
It's small,
because we also, I think this is also including African people as well.
Yeah, so it's probably a third of that, man. We got 44 million black people. You talking about 17,000, man.
Yeah, it's hard to get a doctoral degree now.
Oh, yeah. So that's why. And two is, though, Claudine knows better, man. She tried to buck the system, man. I'm like, what? I don't know why she would do that. Because when you go against the system, they're going to come for you, man. I'm like.
Mm-hmm. So we're not the least, though. That's the only thing I will say. We're not the least, but we are not the highest.
Yeah, so I was going to say that number. And like I said, and two, if you're talking about American FBA, right, man, that's probably 9,000, 7,000 of that probably.
So closer to the 2 or more races. So it's
Right. Yeah, I believe so. We want to drill down in it. 'Cause PhDs are rare.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I thought about getting one, but when I looked, I don't think I will make any more money by getting one now.
Yeah, that's another thing too, is that getting the return on investment. See, I think that when people are getting PhDs, it is to make a change in the world, right? It is to create some research to be able to solve an issue that's going on in the world. And it has to be a new solution to something.
Yeah. No, true. I help people on their PhDs, but yeah, that's just a different whole animal.
Yeah, it's like, it's rare, but then it's like you it's not like it's uncommon. You know what I mean?
I think it's uncommon, but go ahead. Rare to me is uncommon.
I'm saying, like, it's to the point where you can, that there are black people who have PhDs. It's not like it's unheard of.
How many do you know? How many do you know personally? I know one.
I probably know 1 or 2.
So how you gonna say it's not rare if you only know 2 of them?
It's rare, but it's not like, oh, I ain't never heard of a black person getting to like a black president or something like that.
That's rare. But so
that's
for
even
me,
more so.
If you only know 2, it's rare, man. You talking about outliers of the outliers, right? And 2, but in our community, like you said, we ain't even pushing bachelors, man. How the hell are we pushing PhD? Now we talk about PhD. We don't even want to push bachelors, man. So,
yeah. I guess I'm bringing
to the PhD.
Shout out to the PhDs. That's another PhD from Kevin Samuels. But I was gonna say that the only reason I brought up the doctoral degrees is because of the Harvard and Claudine Gay. That's the only reason I brought that up. So this would be a black woman who does have a PhD, got into this position, but it's not like she's the only one. Is my point.
It's rare though, B2B, especially at that level. I mean, and once you get out of HBCUs, black people or black women running major universities, especially Ivy League, is tiny, man. It's tiny. But
but yeah, PB, I want to ask you a question. So what do you think would be the solution to this? There's so many people who are losing jobs right now, through layoffs. What solution do you see of more black people getting into these positions of leadership?
I mean, you brought it up too, and now we got to talk about is the leadership positions. Definitely those positions have degrees. 2 is, like you talked about, and I kind of pushed back on it. You got to start our own firms and back those firms, so then we can get those leadership positions in those firms and grow those firms. And 2, when we get in organizations, we got to support people that get in those positions. I see black people get in leadership, and I feel like other black people attack them and push back on them, like they're Uncle Tom's or Uncle Sam's now because they didn't get it. So I see animosity on there. So I think the multiple ways to do it is you got to get degrees and get those positions. And I'm kind of one. I did 2 supervisor positions. I hated it. My team was no good, so I never wanted to go in leadership again. I stayed the tech route and just kind of maxed out at the tech route. So I think we got to set ourselves up. Shout out to Gabe to try to get those positions. And like I said, I don't even think we're trying to get those positions a lot.
Yeah. Do you think that? So would you consider yourself like an individual contributor?
Yeah, because I do advisement. And 2, I'm a consultant a lot of times. So I go in firms. I mean, you see consultants, you were one. I go into firms and help the company, right? To get there. Now, I talk to CIOs and CISOs and those guys, senior vice presidents, but I'm not in leadership of those companies, right? I'm just a consultant, which is an individual contributor that gets paid well, but I'm not in a leadership position. Right. So you talk about hiring people and bit. Now I can affect hiring because I usually interview those people and help them pick people. Right. But I don't have the official, like you said, vice president, hire this dude. I don't have that type of juice. Right. So.
Yeah, because and even in my current company, even the vice president doesn't have the ability to just straight up hire somebody. I think it goes to the senior vice president of, okay, the manager, like the hiring manager, they're, interviewing them at the very end of the hiring process. Then it goes up to their director. The director says, okay, well, hey, what they can do is help with the budget, and the budget affects if they're able to hire somebody, or even if the position can be opened, then they can kind of give a word to the vice president or the senior vice president, who then makes the hiring decision.
But my last 2 jobs, I knew the CIO personally, and they said, this is the guy I want, pay him this amount of money. I was in there, right? So I didn't interview at that level, right? So I just had those type of connections. I worked with some people at DOD, so they wanted me in this. She became a CIO of a company, and she wanted me to come work for her. So she said, that's the guy I want, right? So and connections. But
another thing too is we need to be in the room with a lot of these people. When you said I knew the CIO, that's how you're able to get that position. He said, oh, he made the phone call. You need to be able to be in the room or be able to know somebody, get in good with somebody who can make the phone call.
So like the CISO, trust me, this is a young brother. He was he ended up passing away, but he was super detailed. So he became our business continuity and disaster recovery guy because his documentation was good, and I kind of trained him up. And it's funny because my wife friend, he's up there, he didn't really like him very much. Like, I don't know about him. I'm like, I got him. That's the dude I want. He trusts me because, well, if he don't work out, you got to do his work. I'm like, I got him. Let's go, right? So I happened to be in the room, and I could kind of sway some hiring on a couple of people. So.
See, that's what we need. We need more of that. I think that will be the solution to a lot of this. If even, let's say, if DEI goes away for whatever reason,
DEI is going away. Go ahead.
You know what I'm saying? Like, even if they get to the point where, because even Black History Month celebrations would be considered part of DEI. Even Pacific Islander celebrations would also be considered DEI. All of that would be considered DEI, and it's one of those things where we have to, like, I don't see them getting rid of like St. Patrick's Day or something like that. You see what I mean?
But the problem is, and I've had some, because my white guys, we're cool. So the lady was disingenuous when she said DEI doesn't hurt any people. When you take a job and a white person think they qualify for that job, they think you taking food out their mouths, right? So that's a different discussion, right? So when you have those different discussions, what does that mean? Because that's how Ron DeSantis is winning that, right? Asians are coming over, taking over jobs. The economy's going down, right? So people believe you're taking jobs that they think they should have, right? That the DEI is doing. Now we can talk about, is that true? Is that false? What about, historical things we're trying to remedy? That doesn't matter when somebody thought they should have a job and you got it, and they don't believe you're qualified to have it.
And why is it that they don't believe that you're qualified?
Because like she said, they done co-opted the term to make it sound like it's less, right? That when you see, you heard him talking about DEI, and shout out to Anton Daniels, he talks that way, right? So I think that once again, and we don't do a good job of the language, and two is, we talked about defunding the police. They're talking about defunding DEI, right? So I think they're putting those two together.
Even, what's funny about that is, even in the article from CNN, it brought up the death of George Floyd. And they said that that was the start of pretty much DEI. Later on, you see the defunding the police, and then that also came from that. And then also Black Lives Matter. And then now we have Ron DeSantis saying defunding DEI.
And we got to remember, when Trump was in there, they took Michigan Law School. That was the case that they took DEI out of law school and started taking that out of education. So that's why I think, shout out to Black Brain Press, we was having some discussion about that. I think DEI is going to be done for, man. You see they getting laid off. Them and remote workers are the first people getting laid off. So it's when you're under that type of attack, you're under that type of bad marketing, right? So I think it's going to be done for a minute.
Very similar to how they said with affirmative action. They
Yeah.
did get rid of that.
Well, what they didn't get rid of it. They just gave it to white women. That's all. They
Yeah.
didn't get 70% of it goes to white women.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, that's
So black.
that's what she was saying.
Yeah. So black people only got 2 or 3% of it. So if you gutted it, that's pretty much gutted it to me. So.
Yeah, but it does not get rid of like nepotism.
Oh no, and the thing I argue with when I push back on my white friends, I say, well, let's get rid of legacy. 25% of Harvard is legacy. I made money, I give donations, I went here, so my son going, let's get rid, and two is let's get rid of football athletics. Let's do it all on merit and educations, right? Make them their own separate thing. They got name, image, and likeness. So take them out the picture, pay them. They're actually employees of the university. So let's just do it straight academics, right?
Well, I will say this though, is that my little brother, he was able to get a full ride scholarship for football. Yeah. And I was like, okay, get his school paid for. Cause I mean, like, it's not like school ain't cheap.
Well, tell him to do this, and I see this a lot, is make sure he takes advantage of it. Because when I was in school, a friend of mine was trying to be a MD. The track coach told him, I didn't bring you here to study that, because he was trying to ask for time off from practice. The coach told him, no, you got to be in practice. That's what your scholarship's for. So if you go Google that, half those guys can take advantage of their scholarship because they were working out too hard. And half of those guys more than half leaves with no degree.
That's a good point.
So you gotta be careful. You look Google this. Google Bobby Bowden, Florida State.
Hold on.
He brought in guys reading at a 6th grade level to Florida State, man. Like, now, granted, this was like 1990. He brought in guys that couldn't take advantage of the scholarship they got because they couldn't read at a 6th grade level.
What was his last name?
Bowden, Florida State.
Okay, I see. Bobby Bowden.
Yeah, Florida State. You could put in there probably reading or reading football. I put 6th grade level. I think it was something like that. So yeah, they were bringing in people that couldn't even take advantage of the scholarship they were given.
Is this it?
No, that's him killing the game. Coach Reflection. I don't see it on there, but yeah, it was on USA Today, I believe, because they were breaking it down. So yeah, so a lot of times they bringing in guys they're not even at a level to take advantage of their football scholarship.
Let's see. Is this it?
No, that's.
Is that he passed?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I had to look at it. Probably in the future live stream or something like that, we can go through it.
Yeah, so it's a lot of football programs like that, man. If you're talented, and I seen that in high school, if you're talented, they don't even make you go to class, man. But if you don't make it to the pros or you get your foot hurt, then you out on the street and almost homeless, man, because you couldn't take advantage of your scholarship that was given you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because there is a lot of people who end up like that. They tell them to get a degree that doesn't mean anything, and then they get hurt, and they won't be able to get. They won't even be able to get the scholarship. There's a lot of people who don't have any scholarship, who are playing college football, and not getting played, but they're helping to make the team better by practice. They're throwing their bodies away so that way they can make the team perform better.
Oh yeah, because it's 100 guys on the team. Most people aren't gonna make it. And two is every year people don't realize the average football player I think plays 4 years because every year you got 500 people trying to get your job. So unless you're a superstar, it's the next man up. And rookies are cheaper than veterans, right? Mm-hmm. So,
right. But yeah, overall, I think that these solutions will be able to help us be able to get more people in these positions. Going to college is a good thing. Even with the debt, I think that there's other alternatives. Like you always bring a WGU as a good way of starting off, getting your degree, and then getting into the IT field. And then there's a lot of other. Oh, hold on. You got it on Bleacher Report?
There it is. Yeah. She said at second grade level. I like, come on, man. So yeah. So.
Hold on. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to share my screen with you.
Okay.
So this is what you were talking about. The Florida State players read at a second grade level.
That's 2009, and that's stuck in my head because I've been on this soapbox for about 15 years, paying college athletes. But go ahead. So
but yeah, let me read through a little bit of this right quick. So it says Florida State released NCAA transcripts today relating to the situation in 2006 and 2007 where players were caught cheating on online classwork. Which happens all the time. And none of the information in the release was new or shocking, with the exception of this. Some Florida State players read at a second grade level. It reminds me of The Blind Side. You remember that movie?
Yep.
Reminds me of that. I am an educator and work at an inner city high school. I understand the challenges of education today. I am familiar with and work with students who have challenging learning disabilities every day. One thing I know for sure, given my experience, is there is no excuse for any college student to not be able to read. Florida State needs to seriously look into how players with that low of a reading level were able to graduate high school, get minimum passing scores or on standardized tests, and most damningly get accepted into a 4-year prestigious academic university like Florida State. This undoes any positive press the school may have gotten for Myron Rolle being named a Rhodes Scholar. This is embarrassing, not only for the football program, but for the school. FSU, however, it's a typo. However, FSU, is not the only institution that should be looking in the mirror here. How are players with that low of a reading level graduating high school? Okay, so that's what this says. Not going to go through the whole thing, but I think that that's so important to kind of highlight is that not only are we not going for the degrees that give the best return on investment, such as a STEM degree, but also we're not even educating before we even get to college.
Yeah, but real quick. Mm-hmm. We start that in grade school, man. When you have a football prodigy in grade school, they get a good trophy. If you win a spelling bee, you get a medallion, right? So we're edifying what we want, and that's sports. So they tell you if he's a sports prodigy, do not hold him up. He's gonna do for greatness, and two is he gonna give money back to the high school. He gonna take this whole block with him. So they gonna push him through. Mm-hmm. So and they still doing that now. I was in college. I ran track when I was skinny. I gave a paper for the student aid to read. This dude typed my paper up so different, gave it back. It wasn't even what I said. I'm like, oh no, I can't turn this in because I know track ain't making no money. I got to be able to do this shit at some level. So they got a whole institution to help players study, help them in test. They had guys, they were saying they were having disabilities and reading where they were faking dyslexia. The student aid was sitting them next to them and helping them with the test, man. When you are a $1 billion organization like football and basketball, they gonna make sure you pass.
You know, it brings a good point. Remember earlier when I brought up the woman from the event last night from Vision Vanguard, Dora Whitley, and how she was talking about education and how her parents really honed in on that and said that she had to learn math and science, and this the only thing her parents wanted to talk about was math and science, and anything else like TV and stuff like that wasn't brought up. And then also talking about like private school or homeschooling for like kids. You know, I think that's something that in our community we don't do enough of.
We don't do that at all. Go ahead. We don't do that at all, B2B. We just talked about that. college degrees almost, we're nerds. Don't nobody want to be us, man. They only want to be us when you make 100,000 be the beat, and everybody's gonna love you. They're gonna want you to come back and help the kids. They're gonna want you to donate. So no, that doesn't get pushed at all. They want you to grow up and be Zion Williams, LeBron, guys jumping out the gym, because they want you to make $1 million, $30 million, which is super rare. That's what we push, which is almost a lottery ticket.
And people get injured all the time.
All the time. That's why I was glad they finally start playing college athlete. It's this guy that went to, I want to say Penn State. He was supposed to be a top draft, broke his ankle. Now he's a teller at a bank. So my push back then was at least let them guys go back to school after they graduate, give them free tuition, free room and board. Give them all the free education they want. But go ahead.
Do you know who Carlton Dennis is?
I do not.
He's on YouTube. He talks about taxes. He's a tax professional.
Okay.
And he used to play football, play college football, and he thought he was going to go to the league. And I don't know if he went to the league or not, but he actually so he played football and he ended up getting injured or not going to the league, and then he ended up starting his tax profession. So and then he has I think he has close to 1 million on YouTube. Let me show you. You probably seen his video before.
I need a new tax guy too, man. My other tax guy retired, and I need another tax guy.
For some reason I couldn't spell this guy.
I'm not really hip to him.
So he has 696,000. But yeah, so he used to play football. Let me see if he says it in here. Oh, great. But yeah. So you can be successful without having to be in sports.
Yeah,
and, he makes and he works with very high earning clients as well, which the video he just came out with was talking about the 7-figure tax strategy. So he was talking about working with somebody who made 7 figures. Just being in the room with these kinds of people is interesting to me.
Yeah, but I party with the coach, man. You can make 7 figures and not be super bright. You said,
but I'm talking about accomplished, right? You can be accomplished. Yeah.
I hang out with a few of those guys, and I'm gonna interview them. They own staffing companies, couple brothers, so they make that type of money. But once again, super rare, man. It's super hard, right? And 2 is most people in our community, they think it's the NBA or NFL. That's the only way you can really get there at a super quick rate too.
Right. Now, PBR, I do want to ask you this. I think I'm going to close out in a second, but I want to ask you the question of, so you you were in there when I was doing the live stream with a Gabe Bay for it was more of a hiring manager type of interview. Just going to see if you'd be interested in doing a technical interview with me.
Yeah, anything you want. Yeah, I used to do data warehousing. I just never go to the data lake. So that's kind of what I was at. What is a partition? What's a star schema? Have you ever read Ralph Kimball? That's an old book. Ralph Kimball data warehousing book is like the Bible for that. I've read that book. So, it's like you said, that's why I asked you what's the difference between a data warehouse, a data mart, and a data lake, right? So those type things. But yeah, I'd be more than happy to do a technical. You might find somebody more qualified than me, but I don't, like I said, it's been 10 years since I've done that type of work, but but if you want one, I can give you one.
Yeah, because I think it would be interesting to see the other side of the interview process as well, because with Gabe, he's more so into cybersecurity without the experience within databases, so he may have heard of some of the terms, but he kind of had to read off some of the questions and stuff and
I've done Oracle for 20 years, so I kind of know that relational background, going over once again to a star schema, to a warehouse, to decentralization of data so you can make it easier to report on. But so yeah, I can definitely do that for you, Peter.
All right. And then when you asked that question about the star schema, I was like, ooh, I know what that is because it's talking about relational databases.
Yeah.
But primarily I work with a Google Cloud and BigQuery. Yeah. So we don't really, so it's more, we work with the data warehouse as opposed to working with relational databases. It's not really a relational database.
Right. Well, and that's one thing I'm trying to get to now is back then it was only relational. So how do you move a billion rows? Now you go with the NoSQL, which is the BigQuery or DynamoDB inside AWS. There's their version of BigQuery. And how do you do it differently from a relational to a NoSQL, and when should you use one versus the other? So yeah, I've been, like I said, studying up on it because I've been getting into the cloud. But yeah, I could definitely kind of give you my best version of that. Like I said, I've actually done that technically, and I'm sure Gabe A hasn't.
Right, but I do want to say so. But BigQuery is just a data warehouse. It's not right. But it's not a NoSQL database.
I thought it was NoSQL like Redshift. That lets you know I'm a little light. I need to do a little investigation. So most of my stuff in AWS, like Redshift, is a NoSQL database for data warehousing in the cloud.
Right. So similar to like MongoDB or Elasticsearch, DynamoDB. So those would be like the NoSQL databases.
Right.
And then I'm sure that and all this is based off of Apache a lot of the time as well. So so there's like how they asked a question about Hadoop and Spark, and then how Spark is like the newer version of Hadoop, where it got rid of a lot of the limitations that Hadoop had. So
Hadoop was hot for a minute.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm sure some people still use it.
Oh yeah, but like the government still use a ton of Oracle, man. That's almost like a mainframe now. There's still a ton of Oracle out there. I get calls, people ask me to come do Oracle work for them. I'm like, dude, I ain't touched an Oracle database in 15 years. So
all right.
There's a ton of that out there. But yeah, I can do that for you, B2B. I'll do a little more reading on that. But yeah, well, like I said, I can do that. Once again, I did data warehousing for 15 years.
And I think what is going to help us with it, and we can talk about this more offline as well, but I think what's going to help is consolidating some of the topics. So that way it's not just like, oh, you ask me a question about anything.
Right. No, I'm with you.
But yeah, so I'll try and find like what I'll do is I'll find a job description, and then we can kind of base the kind of questions based off of that job description.
That'll work. Like I said, I used to do that in my last job a little bit because they were still doing some data warehouse things in Oracle. So, like you said, it doesn't have to be Oracle relationals that, and so we can move over to NoSQL and using those together.
Okay. Well, PBO, I appreciate you for coming up. Did you want to make any last comments on DEI, any of the solutions, or any other issues that you may see when it comes to the getting rid of the degrees or the degree requirements or the layoffs that's going on in tech?
So yeah, I'll keep it short and I'll roll into all of those. Like the layoffs, DEI is under attack, right? I know we need it. I think it's valid, but obviously it's under attack. I think DEI is going to go away. Not go away, but you can see it slowly getting chipped away. And if Donald Trump win the presidency, he's already said it's going to be under attack, right? So that's going to be the blueprint. So if that happens, I think I'm not going to say it going away, but you can see it becoming smaller. Degrees, I think the boomers are still in charge, so they really want degrees. And when you get to a certain level, if there's 100 people applying for a job or 50 people applying for a job, they're going to use the degrees as the cutoff to get those. The hiring manager is going to use to get those candidates down to a manageable number, right? So I still think degrees not the golden parachute that it used to be, but I think we still need to focus on degrees and just make it more affordable. Get into a job, get associates, and let your job pay for it. Like myself, I got an MBA, a Fortune 500 insurance company paid for my MBA. I paid zero for it. Right. And I think when you get that skill set, get that paper, get those certs, you're less likely to get laid off. Or like me, I got laid off. I found another job in 2 weeks, right?
Mhm.
Like I said, my connections, I'm old. We talked about that. Make sure your LinkedIn profile's right. Make sure, your resume's up to date. Anytime I apply for a job, I can see my LinkedIn profile views go up because companies are looking at my profile to figure out if I'm a corporate fit. But once again, everybody subscribe to B2B. I think he's doing great things. Let's keep it pushing. I'm sure, man, he's going to do a technical interview. That's all I got. Old people about to go to bed, man. That's all I got, B2B. That's all I got.
All right. Thank you so much, PBL, for coming up. Appreciate you.
All good, man. Reach out. We'll talk about that interview.
Yes, sir. All right. So let's go ahead and close on out. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Thank you all for sticking with me. I think that was a great discussion talking about DEI. I wanted to make this topic because of all that's going on right now within the job market and how we have so many people who are getting laid off right now, how much more difficult it is to be able to get a job because there's so many more people, qualified candidates out there in the job market, and it's harder for people to be able to get that fresh start into the industry, especially when you don't have a lot of people who look like you, who are in leadership, who can vouch for you or advocate for you. So building your connections, building your network is extremely important. Your network is your net worth. And I think that it's important that we understand the difference between discrimination against people versus qualifying them as a customer or a candidate. Those are two completely different things. And one of them has a negative connotation, which is the discrimination. I don't think that discrimination should be in the workplace. I think that we should have something in place so that way people cannot lean into their biases and turn away a qualified candidate simply because they don't like them for their race, their religion, their gender, disability, all those different types of things I think should not be in the workplace. And as you can see, there is a lot of studies being done on DEI, a lot of studies done on bias and information bias that we have in the media and also in the workplace as well. So I think that overall it's an important topic that we should discuss. We should find more solutions to it. And I thank you all for watching this video, especially if you watched it to the end. I really do appreciate it. What I'm going to do is I have a link down in the description below, so that way you can join the Discord and speak with either me or anybody else within the BTB squad, so that way you can get a increase, or you can increase and improve your network as well. I go in there on a daily basis into the Before the Billions Discord, so that way you can speak with me, and also there's a lot of other professionals as well who can help you with your career questions. So that being said, also please go ahead and check out the Before the Billions website as well, so that way you can sign up for the email list. I'm going to be sending out more resources as well for people getting into tech or the job market. I would love to have you join the email list and or the Discord. With that being said, guys, I really do appreciate you all. I will see you all in the next video. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with me, and I really do appreciate it.